June 3rd, 1899, Volume 2, Jesus Pours His Bitternesses. This morning I was in a sea of affliction, for Jesus had not yet come. I felt such pain that I felt my heart being ripped out. When the confessor came to call me to obedience, for he had to celebrate Holy Mass, Jesus did not let even a shadow of himself be seen, as he usually does. In fact, when he does not come, he allows his hand or his arm to be seen, and especially on a day in which I receive communion, as this morning, he himself comes, he purifies me, and prepares me to receive him in the sacrament. I was saying to myself, Holy Spouse, lovable Jesus, how is this? Aren't you going to come prepare me yourself? How can I receive you? But meanwhile the time came, the confessor came, but Jesus did not come at all. What a harrowing pain! How many bitter tears! The confessor told me, "You will see him at communion, and out of obedience you will ask him why he does not come and what he wants from you." So, after communion, I saw my good Jesus, always benign, with this miserable sinner. He transported me outside of myself, and I was holding him in my arms. He was a child, all afflicted. Immediately I began to say, "My little child, my sole and only good, how is it that you do not come? In what have I offended you? What do you want from me, that you make me cry so much?" And in the act of saying this, my pain was so great that even though I was holding him in my arms, I kept crying. But even before I finished speaking the last word, drawing his mouth close to mine, Jesus poured his bitternesses without answering a word. When he would stop pouring, I would begin to speak again, but Jesus would not pay attention to me and would begin to pour again. After this, without answering anything of what I wanted, he told me, "Let me pour into you. Otherwise, just as I have destroyed other places with the hail, I will destroy your area. Therefore let me pour, and do not think about anything else." He told me nothing else, and so it ended. June 3rd, 1900, Volume 3, Luisa, Chosen Among 1,000. Lack of esteem for others is lack of true humility. This morning, as I was in my usual state, I saw my adorable Jesus for a little while, present inside my heart, sleeping, and his sleep drew my soul to fall asleep together with him, so much so that I felt all my interior powers asleep without acting any more. At times I tried to get out of that sleep, but I could not. Then blessed Jesus woke up for a little while and sent his breath into me 3 times, and it seemed to me that he became all absorbed in me. Afterwards, it seemed to me that Jesus was drawing those 3 breaths he had sent me back into himself again, and I found myself all transformed in him. Who can say what was happening in me because of these divine breaths? I have no words to express that inseparable union between Jesus and me. After this, it seems, I was able to wake up, and Jesus, breaking the silence, told me, "My daughter, I looked and looked again. I searched and searched again, going throughout the whole earth. But upon you I fixed my gazes, and I found my satisfactions, and I chose you among 1,000. Then turning to certain people I could see, he reprimanded them, saying to them, "Lack of esteem for others is lack of true Christian humility and of sweetness, because a humble and sweet spirit knows how to respect everyone and interprets the things of others always for the good." Having said this, he disappeared without my saying to him even a word. May he be always blessed, for he wants it this way, and may everything be for his glory. June 3rd, 1904, Volume 6. The cross destroys 3 evil kingdoms and constitutes 3 good kingdoms in the soul. This morning, since blessed Jesus was not coming, I felt all oppressed and tired. Then when he came, he told me, "My daughter, do not want to become tired and suffering, but rather act as if at each hour you were just beginning to suffer. In fact, if the soul lets herself be dominated by the cross destroys 3 evil kingdoms in her, which are the world, the devil, and the flesh. And it constitutes in her 3 more good kingdoms, the spiritual, the divine, and the eternal kingdom." And he disappeared. June 3rd, 1925, Volume 17. How in creation God loved us with complete love. How all created things are veils which hide him. How redemption serves as remedy for man. I was fusing myself in the holy divine will according to my usual way, and I was thinking to myself, where has our Lord God done more for the creature? In creation? In redemption? Or in sanctification? And my always adorable Jesus moving in my interior showed me all of creation. What sublimeness! What magnificence! How many harmonies! What order! There is not one point, either in heaven or on earth, in which God has not created something special and distinct, and with such mastery that before the tiniest thing created by God, the greatest scientists feel that all of their science and mastery is an absolute nothing compared to the things created by God, which are full of life and of motion. Oh, how true it is that to look at the universe and not to recognize God, love him and believe in him, is true madness. All created things are like many veils which hide him, and God comes to us as though veiled in each created thing, because man is incapable of seeing him unveiled in his mortal flesh. The love of God for us is so great that in order not to dazzle us with his light, frighten us with his power, make us feel ashamed in front of his beauty, make us be annihilated before his immensity, he veils himself in the created things, so as to come and be with us in each created thing, even more, to make us swim in his very life. My God, how much you loved us, and how much you do love us. Then, after he made me look at the whole universe, my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, everything was made in creation. In it, the divinity manifested all its majesty, power, and wisdom, and displayed his complete love toward the creatures. There is not one point, either in heaven or on earth, or in any created thing in which the perfection of our works is not complete. Not one thing was left half made. In creation, God showed off all his works for the creatures. He loved with complete love and made complete works. There was nothing to be added or to be removed. So I made everything perfect. Nor can we do incomplete works. On the contrary, in each created thing we placed a distinct and complete love in creation for each creature. The redemption, then, was a reparation of the evils that creatures had done. It added nothing to the work of creation. And sanctification is nothing other than help, grace, light, so that man may return to his original state of creation, to his origin, and to the purpose for which he was created. In fact, in creation, by virtue of my will, the sanctity of man was complete, since he came out from a complete act of God. He was the man, holy and happy in the soul, because my will brought to him the reflections of the sanctity of his Creator, just as he was happy and holy in the body. Ah, my daughter, with all redemption and the works of sanctification, sanctity in man is incomplete, and for others it is almost useless. Now, I say this, if man does not turn back in order to take my will as life, as rule, and as food, to be purified, ennobled, divinized, to place himself in the prime act of creation, and take my will as his inheritance, assigned to him by God, the very works of redemption and of sanctification will not have their abundant effects. So everything is in my will. If man takes it, he takes everything. It is one single point which embraces and encloses the goods of redemption and of sanctification. Even more for one who lives in my will, after he has taken the prime point of creation, all these goods serve not as remedy, as for those who do not do my will, but as glory and as special inheritance, carried upon earth by the will of the Celestial Father in the person of the Word. And if I came upon earth, this was exactly the prime act, to make known the will of my Father, in order to bind it again to the creatures. The pains, the humiliations, my hidden life, and all the immense sea of the pains of my passion were remedies, medicines, supports, lights, in order to make my will known, because with it I would make man not only saved, but holy. With my pains I placed him in safety. With my will I gave him back the sanctity lost in the terrestrial Eden. Had I not done this, my love, my work, would not have been complete as they were in creation, because my will alone has the virtue of rendering complete our works toward the creatures, and the works of the creatures toward us. My will makes one think in a way which is different from the human way. It makes one look at my will in all created things, speak with the echo of my will, work through the veils of my will. In a word, one does everything all at once, according to my supreme volition, which leads the creature rapidly to perfect sanctity, while the other virtues act slowly, little by little. My redemption itself, without the prime act of my will, serves as dressing of the deepest wounds, as medicine for man, not to let him die, as antidote, not to let him fall into hell. Therefore take to heart my will alone, if you really want to love me and to make yourself a saint. June 3rd, 1928, Volume 24, Requital to the Love of God Informing the Nature of Man. The truths are stairs in order to ascend to God. The divine will, revealer of the work of creation to man. Example of the sleeping child. I continue my abandonment in the divine will, and while going around in it, my poor mind carried itself into Eden, in the act in which God was forming the nature of man, before infusing the soul in him. And I was thinking of the great love with which the Supreme Creator formed the human body, and that before Adam existed, in forming his body, he loved him with the love of a father who loves his newborn, and that since the life of the soul of Adam did not yet exist, he did not requite him with his love. So the divine love remained isolated, without the company of the love of its creature. But it was not right that his love remain without the requital of the little love of the one whom he so much loved. So I thought to myself, the divine will is eternal, and whatever is done in it is always in act, nor does it ever lose the present act. Therefore, in the Fiat, I want to anticipate the love of Adam and amuse my Creator with my love. In the act in which he formed the human body, I want to echo his love, to say to him, "In your will, I have loved you always, even before all things existed." Then, while I was thinking of this and other things, my always lovable Jesus clasped me tightly in his arms, telling me, "My daughter, how happy I am that I manifested to you so many truths about my divine will. All of my truths that I have told you about it are stairs for you in order to ascend in the acts of my eternal volition, to find our first act in act that has the virtue of being always present and of giving us the joy and the happiness of the requital of your love. For us, in order to descend toward you, to look for the company of her for whom we operated and whom we loved so much. How sweet is the company of the loved one! It is full of unforgettable joys. And how equally bitter is isolation, and not enjoying the presence of the one who is so longed for, so loved, and for whom one operates. While we were forming the nature of man, before infusing life in him, we acted like a father or a mother when their child is sleeping. Taken by tenderness, by irresistible love, they long for, they kiss and press their sleeping child to their bosom, and the child, because he is sleeping, knows nothing about it. If you knew, my daughter, how many kisses, how many loving squeezes we gave to the human nature before giving it life. And it was in the ardor of our love that, breathing over him, we gave him life, giving him the soul and breath, heartbeat and warmth to his body. So the breathing you feel is our own. The heartbeat that beats in your heart is ours. The warmth that you feel is the touch of our creative hands that, in touching you, infused warmth in you. And as you breathe, we feel our breath breathing in you. As your heart palpitates, we feel our heartbeat of eternal life beating in you. And as you feel the warmth, it is our love that circulates in you and continues its creative and preserving work, warming you. You must know, my daughter, that our will is the revealer of the work of creation. It alone can reveal all the secrets of love hidden in creation. Adam did not know everything, how many stratagems and loving finesses we used in creating him, soul and body. We acted like a father who does not tell everything at once to his little child, but little by little, as the child keeps growing, he wants to give him surprises, telling him how much he loves him, how much he has done for him, how many loving finesses, hidden kisses. When the child, as a little one, was incapable of comprehending what the Father gave him and could give him, so the Father gives him now a surprise, now another, and this serves to maintain the life of love between Father and Son, and to increase their joy and happiness at each surprise. What would the sorrow of this father not be, who, while his child was sleeping, covered him with kisses, pressed him to his heart, and his loving tenderness was such and so great that he reached the point of wetting the face of the sleeping child with tender tears, if, in waking up, the child does not smile at his father, does not throw his arms around his neck to kiss him, and if he looks at him, it is with coldness. What sorrow for this poor father! All the surprises he had prepared to manifest to his son, he closes in his heart with the sorrow of not being able to share his happiness, his purest joys, to the point of not being able to tell him how much he has loved him and loves him. So it was for us, my daughter. Our more than paternal goodness prepared many new surprises for our beloved child, and our divine will took on the commitment to be the revealer of them to him. As he withdrew from it, Adam lost the revealer, and this is why it is not known how much we loved him and all that we did for him in creating him. Therefore we feel the irresistible love for our Fiat to come to reign on earth as it does in heaven, so that after so many years of silence and of secrets, it may give vent to its flames and return to act as the revealer of creation, because little is known of all that we did in creating man. How many surprises it has to say! How many joys and happinesses to communicate! Don't you yourself hear how many things it tells you, both on what regards my divine will and on the surprising love of the whole creation, and in a special way, the creation of man? My will is the book of creation. Therefore, its reigning in the midst of creatures is necessary in order to know how to read it and to be able to read it. The human will keeps poor man as though asleep. He sleeps, and the sleep prevents him from feeling and seeing all the caresses and finesses of love that his celestial Father gives him, as well as the surprises he wants to make known to him. His sleep prevents him from receiving the joys, the happiness that his Creator wants to give him, and from comprehending the sublime state of his creation. Poor man, asleep to true good, and deaf to listening to my will, which is his revealer, his noble history, his origin, his marvelous height and beauty. And if he feels any vigil, it is either for sin, for his passions, or for things that do not have an eternal origin. He acts just like that sleeping child who, if he wakes up, cries, makes fusses, and torments the poor father, who almost regrets having a child so restless. And this is why my divine will is revealing so many of its knowledges, to wake up man from his long sleep, so that waking up in my Fiat, he may lose the sleep of the human will. He may reacquire what he lost, and may feel the kisses, the love, the loving squeezes that his Creator gives him to his bosom. So each knowledge that regards my divine will is a call. It is a voice that I emit. It is a cry that I send to wake man up from the sleep of the human will. End of June 3rd. Fiat.